Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Steven Sim and tonight I have with me my wonderful HOD of English, Mavis Tan. Mavis, would you like to say something? I can't hear you. You're
Hello,
muted.
everybody. Can you hear me? Good evening,
Okay.
everybody. Yes,
Good
hello.
evening. Good evening. So we are here for part two of our last minute English clinic. So do you have your materials with you? Okay, let's take a look at the Okay, where were we? Okay, so last week, right, Mavis? Last week, we were dealing with paper one questions, and towards the end, the last 15 minutes, many of you asked many relevant questions. And so I read out the questions and I answered them, and we shared our experience. We shared the most optimum approach. Do you remember? Do you recall? So you must remember what you've learned, right? So we said, choose the question, choose the essay question which you're the most, you feel the greatest degree of confidence in. Okay, so confidence is defined by uh, a past history of doing well. So not confidence as in I'm brave, I can do it, but as in you have done this type of question before in the past and you are satisfied with the results, the scores that you get, or you think that that's the best type of essay that you can write. And it's proven because over the past 4 years, you have a track record. Okay. So I won't impose anything and say that, oh, you must do expository or you must do narrative. It's just that narratives are easier. But if you have a track record of scoring high marks for expository or argumentative essays, then go ahead. What you shouldn't do is to think that, oh, I'm doing badly for narrative. So let me try to write something new which I've never tried before. So you don't want to do that during the exam. Okay, so exams are not for experimentation. Exams are for demonstrating the skills which you have already mastered. Okay. Okay, so tonight we are looking at paper two. And again, we are not going to cover 4 years worth of comprehension in 1.5 hours, but we're going to focus on 20% of the errors. 20% of the errors that cause 80% of the lost marks. Okay. So we are very focused tonight. And then of course, if you have any questions, you can type it into the chat. Don't spam. If you spam, we will ignore you. But if you ask a question, we as you have seen before, right? We are very happy to answer your questions. Okay. I'll leave some time or some space towards the end for open-ended questions, but anytime that you want to ask questions about paper two, you can ask questions here, okay? Okay. So what happens is that the key to doing well for paper two is actually uh, to take note of what the examiner has said. So, as you know, both Mavis and I used to teach in secondary schools. I was a HOD, and Mavis is a HOD now, but I was a HOD back then, so I had access to examiner's report. So, what does an examiner report? Meaning the actual examiner, that old man with the beard in London who marks your papers. Yeah, so after he marks all the papers, then he types a report and then he sends it back to Singapore, uh, to MOE in Singapore, so that MOE takes that report and passes it to all the HODs and says that, and so that all the HODs can go and tell their student, all the HODs can go and tell their teachers, so that all the teachers can go and tell their students, don't do this, do that. Okay, so that's the point. And so one of the examiners said, it is rare that a question can be answered by straight lifting from the text. A certain amount of interpretation and distillation is almost always necessary. And so when the English talk like that, what they mean is don't lift. Okay? That's what they are saying. Don't lift. Can you please not lift? But this don't lift thing, right, is applicable for the compre questions. Later on, when it comes to the summary, I'm going to tell you the opposite. For the summary, I'm going to tell you lift. Okay? So why is it that straight lifting is not good enough? So it's very rare. It's almost never happens. Okay, almost never happens. So we have three golden rules for the section. So the visual text section A, the narrative comprehension B, then the non-narrative comprehension with the summary C. But these three golden rules apply to all three sections. Okay, so take a deep breath, relax your body, focus your mind. Okay, so the first golden rule is decode the question. The second golden rule is avoid the sin of lifting. And the third golden rule is to conquer the own words section. Answer in your own words. Okay, so first of all, to decode the question. I'll tell you the main problem. The main problem that I have observed my own students when I teach them in class, right? Which is that they don't read the question. He said, Mr. Sim, it's not true. Of course we read the question. No, really, they don't read the question. You know the question, the one which goes, okay, let's say question 5, then you have all these words, right? Blah, 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 blah. Then they give you a table to fill in, right? Okay, so they give you a table. So there's some things here, and then they give you some words here, then they give some words here, right? So what do students read? The students read this. You know what students don't read? Students don't read this. I see this all the time. I see this all the time. All the time. All the time. So I'm telling you, this is even
Mm.
before decoding the question, you need to read the question. You can't say, I've seen this kind of format so many times that uh I don't care anymore. I'll just fill in the table immediately. You can't actually fill in the table unless you read and the question, because what happens is that in the table itself, they'll give you a clue regarding what they want you to look out for. Then, of course, the header here tells you what this information is all about, the words from the passage. And then after that, you're supposed to fill in this. So there's a triangle. So there's a triangle. You need to look at the triangle. Whoa, mysterious Illuminati triangle. Can you please open your eyes and read the questions, please? Because it's like trying to go for a boxing match, then you tie one hand behind your back, then say, come, I box with you. One hand, Whoa, one hand only. Don't do that. Read the question. You actually need three things, okay? You need this part, you need this part, and you need this part. So many students, 90% of my students only do 2 and 3. They don't want to read the question on top. So okay, so that's number one. Number one, okay? So just break the habit, and then open your eyes, read the question, okay? Okay. What question am I referring to? I'm referring to any question where they give you a table. Okay. Okay, so the other thing that I notice among my students is that their question paper is very clean. They have a very clean question paper, very neat and clean. No good. No good. No good. Don't keep your question paper neat and clean. The question paper, if you look at what I have on screen right now, you find that I'm making use of all the blank spaces in between. You see? And so I'm modeling for you what you should be doing. You should be making use of all these kinds of spaces in between, right? To do your working. To do your working. Because maths, you have a piece of paper for working, correct? And then you write the actual equation and the working down. But actually, you have a spare piece of paper where you do your working, right? English, you don't have that, but all of this is for you to do your working. Do you understand? And so the number one, well, we are at number two already. The number two problem which I see students doing is that they don't circle the questions. They don't circle the keywords. I'm sure your teachers have asked you to underline or to circle keywords, right? So many of you do that. But I think there are also many of you who don't do that, because you say, oh, I already know. I already know. So you don't bother to circle. So if you circle, that is actually a reminder to yourself that this is important. So that's why you circle. You're not circling because the teacher asks you to circle. You're circling because you are leaving a record that, okay, your mind has processed this. Now I want to process another part. Now I want to process another part, because there are so many parts. There are so many parts which you need to process. So for example, like, question 5, I'm referring to question 5, Mindy Ng. So like question 5, right, up here. So there are 3 parts, but most students don't circle. I'm sure you don't circle the headers in the table, right? So most students will look at the headers in the table, then they try to fill in. And what they end up doing is they end up paraphrasing. But sometimes the question is not asking for a paraphrase, they're asking for an inference. So you need to circle all the parts of the questions. Okay, the keywords of the question is very important. So for example, how does it work? For example, let's say you have this question, right? And the passage says, as a view, Schaffer reflected, it was vastly preferable to contemplating the 200-foot drop down into the valley below. Let me give you a quick thing, because, it's a 1.5 hour thing, so you don't have time to do the whole comprehension passage. So what's happening is that there's this man, and then he's clinging onto a rope like this. He's clinging onto a rope and he's trying to climb upwards. Very difficult, right? And way below him, that's 200 foot. So he's like, "Whoa." Okay. Now, if he looks up, he can see the moon. Okay. So the passage describes this, because so he has a choice, right? Should he look up or should he look down? As a view, chauffeur reflected. So reflected means what? What does reflected mean? Oh, so he's meaning he's thinking of the situation, right? It was vastly. So vastly meaning greatly, preferable. So he preferred. So maybe if you don't know the meaning of preferable, but you see the root word prefer, also he preferred. Okay, so don't panic when you come across words in the questions which you have never encountered before. Look at the root word. So something prefer. Okay, so it's prefer. To contemplate, to think about. So it was vastly preferable to contemplating the 200 foot. So this view of the moon was greatly preferred rather than thinking about, oh, this long distance that he's going to drop. Now the question is this: state why. Schaffer found that looking up towards the moon was, and then they give you a quote, vastly preferable to contemplating that 200 foot down into the valley below. Okay, so which words need to be circled? Can you tell me? Can you type into the chat and tell me which words should I circle? Which words should I circle? Why? Okay, thank you. What else should I circle? Is that all? Only one word, why? Found that. State why found that. Found that is not so important. No. Vastly preferable. Yeah, I should circle this because this is his behavior or his inkling. This is what he wants to do. Looking up. Yes, looking up is important. Looking up is preferable. And what else? Is that all? Contemplating? No. Contemplating will be thinking about. Okay, 200 foot drop. Okay, that's the 200 foot. And so these are the keywords. So once you look at it, you realize actually there are a few parts to this. So there is, I need a reason. So why means reason. Looking up. Why is it that looking up? Why is it that looking up was better than looking down? Why was looking up better than looking down? So the students who look at this, sometimes this is what I get when I have students answering. They will write things like, because what they do is they just look at the quote here, right? And they are trying to look for certain words to answer. So they'll say that, oh, it's because there is a 200 foot drop below. It's because there is a 200 foot drop below. Now, if you say that there is a 200 foot drop below, that is true, but you don't get marks. So so many students get confused when they say, but what I wrote is true. It's accurate. This is what the passage is saying. And I'm writing what the passage is saying. The passage says that there's a 200 foot drop. And so I wrote down, it's because there's a 200 foot drop. It's true. But it doesn't answer the question. So true is not the same as correct because they're asking for the reason. So what happens is that in our minds, right, when we read, okay, when we read the text, what's actually happening is that the text looks like this. All the words here, right? Ding, 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 ding. Okay, so there's a text, correct? On the paper. Now, and this is very important for you to understand, get the concept, the conceptual understanding of it, so get the understanding of it. So there's a text. And what happens when you read is that what happens when you read is that in your mind, right, that text actually expands. That text actually expands, and this is now the text. This thing, because this thing that you create inside your mind, this green layer, these are all the things that are implied. These are, it includes the original text, but you have things like reasons. You have things like purpose. Because purpose and reasons and the things that are implied cannot be found in the text. So no matter how hard you say, I'm trying very hard to look at the text and I want to copy certain things. And it's true that those are the actual words that you copy, but you still don't get the mark because they're not testing you about the text. They're testing you about whether or not you manage to recreate this layer inside your head, whether you manage to create an accurate reading of the text inside your mind. And that's what they're testing for. You understand? So something like a reason cannot be found in the text. So if you just copy the words, it will be wrong. So the reason is something which you need to create for yourself. And when you create the reason for yourself, then you explain it in your own words. So when they say explain in your own words, they're not trying to make life difficult for you. They are giving you a clue that if you copy, it's going to be wrong. So the typical wrong answer is that the valley floor is 200 feet below. That's wrong. It's true, but no marks because it doesn't answer the question. So you need to have the reason, and the reason is something which you create inside your head. And so Jensen says, which made it very scary. And that's true, and that's correct. You see, that thing about it becoming frightening, terrifying, scary, that comes from you. You see, because that reason is created by you. The reason is not created in the text, it's not stated in the text. That reason is when you go, aha, I know. Okay, so that is the thing which you write down. And when you write it down, then you get the marks. So Jensen is correct. So terrified, scared, frightened, etc. Do you understand? Okay, so I've explained this. Now, can you type into the chat and tell me what did I just say? If you were to explain this to your classmate, right, tomorrow, when you see your classmate in, okay, maybe you don't see your classmate, when you chit chat with your classmate, right, and if you try to explain to your classmate how to get marks for this type of questions, right, the why question, what is it that you need to do? Can you type into the chat? What is it that you need to do in order to answer the why question correctly? I see lots of answers coming in. Very good. Okay, let me see. Audrey says, read between the lines. Yes, because there's something. Read between the lines, impossible thing. There's nothing, it's blank space in between the lines. But that figure of speech, read between the lines, means you see invisible things. In English, at Mind Stretcher, we teach you to see invisible things. It's true, because it's inside here. Don't copy, but expand on the idea further. Yes. Answer what the question is saying. Yes. Must always infer from the passage. Yes, but that sounds like your teacher scolding you. I want to know specifically what you're supposed to do. Brian says, don't live, find the important part of the section. Try to understand how the person is feeling or thinking. Very good. So what Brian is doing, he's saying that you use this quality called empathy. You place yourself in the position of this poor man. And then he say, if it were me, how would I be feeling? That's the answer. So in order to do that, you need to have empathy. Correct? It's true. Brian, that's a good answer. Uh, WKL says, annotate where you think the most important words are, then think about what those words suggest. Yes, think about what they suggest. So that there's this expansion of the imagination. Demonstrate understanding of the question by inferring and using own words. A bit too vague. Answer the question directly instead of copying evidence from text. Yes, that's a very brave approach. Identify the evidence and then infer the reasons from there. Yes. Be in the character's shoes. Yes. Effects of the situation. What does that mean? Explain how you would feel. Yes. Expand on the facts by thinking of the reasons for the evidence. Yes. Circle the words. Why demands a reason. So we need to analyze the implied meaning. Hey, that sounds like what I wrote. Okay, so yeah. But do not just leave as that is true, but what's true is not always the correct answer. Yeah, that's right. Just because it's true doesn't mean it's the correct answer. Okay, so that is one of the dead ends, one of the traps which many students fall in. They say, I must write something that is true, but that thing which you wrote, which is true, which you check is true. How come I still don't get marks? That is a trap. Do you understand? It must be answering the question rather than just what is true. Okay, give a reason, cause, why, and infer from the text like the top part as it might give context. Okay, something like that. I think maybe I understand what you're saying, Gabriel. The sentence may be true, but the correct answer always requires your personal contemplation. Wow, contemplation, ah. Okay. Ask my Sean says, ask myself what is the link between the keyword to the why. Okay. Ethan says, answer the question, imagine the story yourself. Yes. Imagine the story yourself. Yes. Imagine the story yourself. Yes. Because once you imagine the story yourself, that's actually what they want. You must process, you must engage with the text at the level of your imagination. It's not about black and white marks on a piece of white paper. It's not about that at all. It's actually about engaging with it here. Exactly. Very good. Okay, where was I? Something like that. Okay. Unpack keywords and able to give, able is like you're able or you're not able. So it's better to have unpack the keywords and imagine. So do something with it, not just, oh, and then I'm able. It's not automatically you're able, but unpack the keywords and imagine that you're actually there inside that story. Okay. Okay, so I have read out all the comments and given you feedback. Okay, very good. I'm very happy that uh you managed to get it so quickly. Okay, so apply this. Okay, second golden rule. Avoid the sin of lifting. So if you simply copy chunks meaning large sections, so large sections of the text, then you're not showing your understanding. I mean, there are two possibilities, right? The first possibility is that you don't understand. That's why you're copying. You hope that by copying you will get some marks somehow because you don't understand what's going on. Okay, I can understand that. That is one of the possibilities, right? I don't understand, therefore I copy. Okay, I know that some students face this. This is the because it's better than handing it in blank, correct? Am I right or am I right? Yeah, okay, so don't leave it blank, but at least write something. Okay, so I don't understand. Anyway, I've just copied. Maybe somehow, I don't know. But very low percentage. But anyway, I'll just copy. Okay. The other possibility is I understand, but I have this bad habit where I just copy. Oh, this is the one which is really sad. You understand? So you need to break out of this, because if you understand and you still copy, for example, let's say you have a passage. It says, "My mother gave us each a sharp slap, swak swak, her hand moving in a graceful figure of eight." And then we say, okay, so we're going to imagine figure of eight. Gave us each. So there must be more than one person. Swak swak must be the sound. Wow. Onomatopoeia. So swak is the sound of one slap and thwak is the sound of the other slap, which means, hey, there were two people. Hey, not bad, huh? My interpretation based on thwak thwak, I can figure out how many people there are. You see? So, and then graceful figure of eight. It's a graceful figure of eight. Sharp slap, because sharp slap is like that, right? Sharp slap is like that. But this is graceful figure of eight. Okay, let's imagine that. Number eight. Okay, maybe I do number eight sideways. So, twak, twak. Like that. So, twak to the first person, twak to the other person. So, twak, twak. Oh, graceful figure of eight. So, now, so we imagine. Whoa, that happened. What does the phrase "her hand moving in a graceful figure of eight" suggest about the mother's actions? Dang, dang, dang. Okay, so a typical answer is that I don't understand. I don't understand this figure of eight thing. I just write down it suggests her hand was moving in a graceful figure of eight, because I don't understand. Okay, so no marks. But let's say if you understand. Okay, so what does it suggest about the mother's action? So this is the thing which many students get stuck, because I can visualize it, I understand it, but I don't know what this question is asking for. I don't know how to answer this type of question. What are they asking for? Suggest about the mother's action. So it's the way that, so the mother's action, the way that she slapped them. What does it suggest about the way that she punished or she slapped them? Oh my God. What does it suggest about the way that she slapped them, the mother's action? So you see how much effort I put into trying to understand the question, instead of rushing off to try to answer it. I really spend a lot of time underlining, thinking, visualizing, and I said, what is this question asking me for? And because it's not always the same thing. If they ask the same thing, then it'll be very boring, right? So they throw you all the different kinds of questions. And that is, I it's something like 30 to 40% of the challenge when it comes to a comprehension question, trying to figure out what they are asking for. Because I understand the passage, but I don't understand what they're asking for. And so if I go ahead and answer when I don't know what they're asking for, very high chance it's going to be wrong. But if I know that what they're asking for is the way that she slapped them, then I can give my answer. And my answer cannot be sharp. My answer cannot, or the way that she slapped them was sharp. The way that she slapped them created sounds. The way that she slapped them involved moving her hand. So the action was, okay, some of you are saying smooth and painful. Her action was painful to herself. The action was smooth to herself. No. So what is it? The precise, is it precise? Figure of eight is precise? No, figure of eight is not precise. You look at my number eight here, is it precise? You look at all the, not precise. So it suggests that She has had lots of practice. She had done it so often that her movements have become smooth and practiced. And so now this is frightening because it's not, because the way that she moves it is so skillful. It, the reason behind it must be she has slapped her children many times. You see? You understand? So that is what is being suggested. It suggests that her actions are well practiced because she has done it many times before. Okay. So, so there's this layer of thinking, this layer of imagination. Because what we see is just the talk talk, but what does it suggest? So what is being implied by her skill level? What does it imply by the fact that she can do it in such a graceful manner? Does it imply that she's a graceful person? No. Does it imply that she is highly skilled? Yeah, but why? Oh, the implication is frightening now. She's highly skilled because she's done this many times before until she's an expert. Because if I had to ask you, again, empathy, right? If I had to ask you to slap one person, okay, you can do that. If I ask you to slap two persons, is that slap and then slap again. So no skill. But if you've done it many times, you can go slap on the first person and then after that, slap the second. Wow, frightening. You understand? So that role of the imagination must come in. The imagination, that visualization, and then you write down what you understand. You write down what you understand. And the answer must be very precise. So nimble is to be very dexterous in the way that you move around. You move around in a nimble way. But here this is suggesting that she's very violent in
Mm.
in her behavior.
Mm.
Okay. Golden rule number 3. Okay, so swapping the words. Okay, let's say if you find a phrase which is difficult, okay, so conquer the own words question, so answer in your own words. So if you, let's say the passage says, the whales found rich feeding grounds in the cold Antarctic waters. In your own words, dang, 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 explain why Antarctica was a good place for whales. A good place. But I don't see anything that I can't match the word good with the word good here, right? In the passage. So most students will jump and they'll say it's a good place for whales because there were rich feeding grounds and no marks, right? So you know by now because they say in your own words then. So rich feeding grounds. So is it because it's cold that's why it's a good place? And the whales, no, it's not that, right? Or because it's water and not that. No, no. So they found the rich feeding ground. So it's like, oh, this is the answer is inside this phrase here. But I can't lift it. So I swap. So instead of rich, so rich, normal meaning having lots of money, having wealth. But listen to what I said, lots of money. So it's actually the lots of. Oh, not money, but lots of. So you see the precision of your thinking, right? Because normally it's lots of money, but it's lots of. So it's plentiful. Feeding grounds, a place to eat, a place where you feed, a place where feed food, feed food, a place where you find lots of food. So there was plenty of food for the whales there. There was plenty of, and so you find that a characteristic of a good answer for Compre is that it's always something that's pretty simple in terms of the language that's used. It's something that a P6 student will read and understand. So your answers, you want to construct answers as if you are explaining to a primary six student, as if you are explaining to your younger brother or sister. So it's a very complicated situation in the text, and then but you understand it, and so now your brother asks you, or your younger sister, or your cousin asks you, say, "Oh, why is Antarctica a good place for whales?" Then you say, "Oh, there was plenty of food for the whales there." You get the mark. You see? Do you understand? So your approach must be to write and make things explicit. You must make it explicit. You cannot show too much respect to the examiner. You know the examiner, this guy, and he has this long beard, and he has a cap, and then he's so this is the guy who's marking your paper in England, in London, right? So you cannot show too much respect for him. You cannot assume that since he is the examiner, he's very smart. I just put down keywords and then he will understand, and then he will give me the marks. It's not like that. And so it's the opposite of what happens in your class. So what happens in your class is that, let's say if there's an open call, right? The teacher asks a question and the teacher says, okay, uh, and it might be your history teacher, social teacher, any teacher. So the teacher might say something like, okay, name me, can anybody tell me why uh, people prefer, or people living in the countryside migrate to cities? And then Johnny Boy, who is very eager, knows the answer. He put up, healthcare. Then the teacher says, very good. People in the countryside migrate to the cities because there is better healthcare available in the cities. Then Johnny Boy goes, wow, I'm so smart. Now, what happens during the exam? Why do people in the countryside migrate to the cities? You know what Johnny Boy answers? Johnny Boy answers healthcare. Or he answers because of healthcare. Oh, this is a problem. Or he answers to get healthcare. This is a problem. This is a very big problem. This is a very big problem because you have mistaken, or you have been trained in the wrong response. In class, when you give a keyword or a key phrase, the teacher takes that and then the teacher recreates the entire answer on your behalf. Do you understand? But that keyword or that key phrase which you offered to the teacher, that's unacceptable as a comprehension answer. Your answers cannot be in this form. It cannot be to get healthcare. It cannot be because healthcare. It cannot be, and I've seen students write things like, as it is, let me rephrase this. They say, as healthcare is available, or as better healthcare is available, full stop. Cannot. Because remember, we said you block the question, you use your hand and you block the question, then you just read this to yourself. What is this? This is an incomplete sentence. And this is an incomplete sentence. And this is an incomplete sentence. How can you write your comprehension answers in this way? This is a very common error. It's a very common error. I'll tell you why it's a very common error. It's a very common error because when your teacher shows you the teacher's answers on the screen and says, okay, self-mark. Okay, the teacher shows you the answer and then they say, self-mark. And then you look at, I said, I didn't know. And so now I copy the answers from the teacher's answers. I copy down because the teacher's answers were actually as healthcare is available. So I write down as healthcare is available. And now you have been trained in the wrong way of answering because the answers for the teachers are meant for the teachers to use. The answers for the teachers only give the core idea. Because for comprehension, students phrase their answers in many different ways. So the student might say, they shift from rural to urban areas in order to get better healthcare. Or the student might say, they do this since better healthcare is available in the city. Correct? So there are different ways of phrasing it. So for the teacher's answer, they just put the core idea there. Now, the skillful teacher knows that they are just supposed to refer to the core idea and then look at the different students' ways of answering and then decide, okay, this student has answered it correctly, give the mark. This student has answered wrongly, don't give the mark. Or the main idea is there, but the way the phrasing is wrong, okay, don't give the mark. So the skillful teacher does that. But when the teacher doesn't explain to you and if the teacher doesn't collect your work for marking and all the teacher does is say, copy the answers from the answer key and you copied it like this. If you do this for the Cambridge exam, you are going to be heavily penalized. Do you understand? Because this is not a complete sentence. Even if this is capitalized, and even if there are full stops here, it is not a complete sentence. You cannot answer like that. Okay, this is a very important thing. Okay, if you put in the effort to write a complete answer, your marks will shoot up because this is one of the main ways that many students just lose marks. Because remember this guy over remember this guy over in England who is marking your paper? He's looking at this and then he's saying, OMG, this student from Singapore doesn't know how to write a proper sentence. So why would he give you marks? Am I making sense? I'm not talking about excess, then I'm talking about a proper sentence. Just have a proper sentence. Okay? Have a proper sentence. Write proper sentences, okay? What's a proper sentence? Gabriel, then this is the proper sentence. No excess denies here. There was plenty of food for the whales there. They shifted to cities in order to get better healthcare. Like that. No excess denies. Simple sentence. Okay. So very dangerous. So you look at your afterwards, okay? Afterwards, you dig up your exam papers and then you look at all the papers which you self-mark, especially, and then you look out for this. Have you been doing this? If you have been doing this, put a great big star or something there and say, okay, what you do is you rewrite it in the form of a full sentence, okay? So they migrated in order to get better healthcare. Okay, very important, okay? Can you do that? They migrated in order to get better healthcare. Okay, so and you make it turn all the incomplete sentences into complete sentences, okay? So you practice it. You don't have to do 300. You just do 4, 5 times. And then once you say, I've got it. I know what to do. Then that's it. Then you know what to do. Okay? So this is a blind spot. This is a blind spot, which I'm telling you it happens. So if it applies to you, do something about it. Okay? You need to do it 2 or 3 times or 4 times, and then you will get it. Then it becomes automatic. Okay. Okay. Section A. Section A, visual text strategy. Okay, why is this visual for this audience to send this message? A very strange question, but basically it's saying visual, audience, and message. Okay, so purpose. What is the purpose of this? So the purpose of it cannot be, it is to say that, oh, that's wrong. What is the purpose? And of course, Sunny, to, come on. It's a very common thing, right? It's just a to. What is to? No. To entice. So you say it is to entice readers to blah, 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 sign up for something. So is it very difficult to add in this 1 or 2 words? Just add in this 1 or 2 words, then it becomes a full and complete sentence. Not very difficult to do. Break out of the previous practice, just put in this 1 or 2 words, and then your marks go up, right? It becomes a complete sentence. It is to entice. But the thing which you don't know how to do is actually this: to entice, to persuade, to warn, to encourage, to promote. Okay. Do not write it is to say. Don't say it is to say. Use all of this instead. It is to entice. So all of these are acts. These are the things which you can do with language. These are the things which the words, this is the way in which the words manipulate the readers. Manipulate the readers. This is the way, it's as if somebody is using words to manipulate the readers, to entice, to persuade, to warn, to encourage, to promote, not to say, because hand cannot say. The hand cannot say, and the words are not to say. You understand? So to entice the customers into purchasing this drink. Now, that's actually enough. But if you wanted to, you could say, because of the word soothe, right? Soothe and comfort, vocab. Refresh is energy, vocab. Rejuvenate is to renew, vocab. Do you understand? If you really wanted to play it safe, you would do this. But I say, but Mr. Tim, that's too difficult. It's not just one word, now it's three words. Okay, then what you do is that you say it is to entice customers into purchasing this drink by associating it with feelings of uh, refreshment or rejuvenation or comfort. They just use one or two of these. Maybe just one would be enough. But the main idea behind it, when if you talk about purpose, right? The purpose is to entice. The purpose is to persuade. The purpose is to encourage. The purpose is to warn. So this is very important. I don't know why many students don't know this. And they keep saying it is to say, it is to say. Cannot be it is to say. It's not it is to say. It is because to say is operating at the same level as the text. But remember we said that the other level where we see how they are manipulating you. So this are the purpose here. Oh, here, down here. The way in which they are manipulating you, the purpose is cannot be seen, but they are still doing something to you, even though you can't see it. You see? They're doing something to you, even though you can't see it. That's called their purpose, their hidden purpose. Yeah. So by associating the drink with positive feelings, it entices the readers to buy it. Okay, Jensen? Okay. So that's section A. Okay. So section A, most important thing you need to know is answer in a complete sentence. Use correct phrases, okay, to convince, to warn, etc. Don't say it is to same. Many students lose marks for this. Most students get 2 upon 5. That's an average 2 upon 5 because they keep saying it is to say and they don't know how to write about it because it's not about what's there in the text, it's what's happening here. How they are manipulating you. It is to entice, it is to warn. Okay. Yeah, like I said, Vasan, because if you don't know all three words, it's very difficult, right? So just come up with one general word instead, okay? Uh, Next question, section B. What is unusual and effective? What is unusual and effective? So break it up into two steps because once they ask a two-part question, if you try to do everything at once, it's very difficult. So most students are very worried because they say, I'm supposed to answer and then I want to answer, but I still haven't finished answering. It's very difficult to answer. And so they end up writing one sentence that is so long and convoluted that they contradict themselves. It doesn't make sense. It's all mixed up and confused. So don't do that. Because if you look at it, what you actually need is a paragraph. So don't make the sentence do the work of a paragraph. Don't make the sentence do the work of a paragraph. What do I mean? What I mean is that, this programming which you receive from your teachers when they say, answer in a complete sentence. Okay. Refine it. It's actually answer in complete sentences. Answer in complete sentences, not answer in a complete sentence. You say, oh, but Mr. Sim, if I do that, won't I have access denied? You're going to write so much anyway, what? You're going to write, you know you need to write all of these things in order to explain. And if you fumble it, it's not going to help you to explain anything. So you answer in complete sentences. You write short sentences. You say one thing, you are very safe because it's very sure. You're very sure that it's correct. Put a full stop there. It's like saving your document, right? So you don't type, and then, hey, somebody stepped on the wire and now the battery went, the power went off, and then, oh, I lost 30 minutes worth of work. I'm so angry. No, you save every once in a while, right? So once you have one complete idea, you put a full stop there, it's saved. Then now you build the next idea and then you put a full stop there and then it's saved. Do you understand? So you do it step by step. So it's not about having commas. Just why do you need comma when you can put a full stop? For example, let's say when his father spoke, all heat was taken out of the summer air and she felt a chill breeze run down her spine. Okay. Then all heat was taken out of the summer air. What is unusual and effective? Okay. So if you say it is effective because the atmosphere changed and became cold. So this is the wrong meaning of atmosphere because in in English, atmosphere is mood. Okay, atmosphere is mood. It's the feeling. It's not the geographical atmosphere. It's got nothing to do with actual temperature. I once had this colleague who said, "Oh, because the countryside is foggy, so the atmosphere is unclear." No, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about geography. It's not that. We're talking about atmosphere being mood. So it's not the geographical meaning of atmosphere. We're talking about the literary meaning in terms of English language, meaning of atmosphere. So atmosphere is mood or feeling. So the atmosphere became cold. No. So when we talk about the chill breeze, this is not literal. It's not literal. It's not literal. So what you want to do is you want to have a two-step process. So you describe why it is unusual, then you put a full stop. It's unusual because the person's voice cannot literally change the air temperature. So you need to say that. After that, you say it is effective because it shows how, so it suggests, it shows, it conveys, it suggests, it shows, it conveys how the father's sudden appearance instantly destroyed the fun of the moment, making the atmosphere feel unhappy and tense. Ah, of course. So your answer must be like this, as in, when your primary six brother or sister reads this, they say, I understand what this means. That's the kind of answer you need to write, not the very long sentence with commas and then, wow, very, 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 very long. I don't understand, but the Cambridge examiner is an expert, he will understand. No. If you don't understand what you wrote, the Cambridge examiner will say, I also don't understand. No marks. You understand? So what you write must be precise. It must be simple. But the explanation, the thinking behind it must be very clear. Because when you look at this, it's very clear. I understand what it means. You see? So that's the kind of approach which you want to have for your Compre B. Okay, your narrative Compre. Okay, so 25 more minutes. Section C, summary. Okay, so summary. Remember, we started off by saying that many students don't read the question, right? So make sure that you underline or you bracket exactly what the question is asking for. Sometimes, in fact, most of the time nowadays, the summary question, they go da 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 like that, right? And then they give you certain words, right? Okay, so for example, they might say, rice was grown. Okay, then you're supposed to write your summary, right? Rice was grown, blah, blah, blah. And then most students just say, oh, rice was grown, and then they continue here. But actually, what you need to do is you need to say, okay, what are they asking for here? They might be asking for two different things. They might be asking for why or in what way rice was grown. And then there's a B, which might talk about how it has affected the environment. So what happens is that if you only write your answer based on this starting phrase, right? Then whatever you write, it will just be A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A4, A5. And after you say, I can't find any more points. Of course, you can't find any more points because you didn't even take into account that there was a B1, B2, and a B3 because you didn't read the question. Do you understand? So this is very important. You have to read the question. You have to bracket and say, they're asking for this and they're asking for that. I cannot just rely on the starting sentence to identify because some students say, I am lazy to read. Okay. So if you are lazy to read, then you don't get the marks. That's what they're testing for. So people who are lazy to read don't get marks. People who are not lazy to read, people who have disciplined themselves to focus and say, I'm going to bracket and then I'm going to hunt for this point, then you get the marks. Okay. So go through the paragraph and then you list the points. Okay, so you extract the points. So what happens when you go through the paragraph, you might say, okay, so from here to here, this is point one. From here to here, this is point two. From here to here, this is point three, like that. Okay, so you want to extract the points and make sure that you come up with 10. Of course, in terms of content marks, is 8 upon 8, but you don't know, maybe what you collected was only a sub point, right? So is it a point or is it a sub point? So since this is an exam, we want to play it safe. If you get 8, it's actually fine, but see whether you can collect 1 or 2 extra just to play safe. Do you understand? Okay, just to play safe, you try to get 1 or 2 extra points. Then after you ask yourself, am I answering the question? You check the question again. So when I do summary questions, I always refer to the questions 2, 3, 4 times. I don't understand how students can just say, oh, I'm just going to summarize. It's not. You have to flip back and forth and say, is this the question? Is this the question? Okay, and then I check whether the points which I have identified are relevant. Okay, after that, you want to organize your ideas, then you want to write. And so you want to compress. So the spirit captured by this. So spirit captured this is figurative. So you want to make it literal. Okay, so explain clearly. Explain clearly that it has become a symbol of rebellion. So don't copy that figurative thing in. So translate it from figurative to literal. That's very important. Number 2, what you want to do is you want to lift. Remember I said earlier on that comprehension don't lift, summary you lift. Ban in schools. Okay, so lift this phrase, ban in schools. No problem, ban in schools. Lift. Fervor with which teenagers embrace them. If you don't understand this, lift. Because only added to the verb. I'm not sure what this means. Okay, lift. Then you get a mark. Because if you misunderstood this and you say jeans will soon ban in schools, which adds to fervor. I don't know what's fervor. Favor. So it adds to favor and teenagers embracing each other. No, that's not. Wait, what's going on? No, right? No. So if you are not sure, leave. If you are sure, then it becomes being banned in school made them more popular with teens. So, oh, this is very good. This is very good. And so if you can do it like that, you're going to get 15 upon 15. If you only lift, you will get 12 upon 15. If you say teenagers embrace each other because of the favor of the genes, you get 2 upon 15
Mm.
because you repeat this misinterpretation for every single point, then your final output in your summary no longer makes sense. It's no longer true to the original. So your content marks will be very low, 1 mark upon 8. I've seen many students do this. They get 1 or 2 marks out of 8, and then their language scores also becomes 2. So it becomes 4 upon 15. You don't want to do that. You want to lift when you are not sure about what it means. Just lift it. So your content becomes 8 upon 8. And then for your language, what you do is you just string it together and make it grammatical. Then you get 3 to 4 upon 7, which gives you 11 or 12 upon 15, which is a very good score. And then you say, but Mr. Sim, I've always been scoring 12. Okay, then this is the challenge for you. If you have always been scoring 12, this is the way to transform the entire sentence. You cannot do word for word substitution. You need to transform the entire sentence in this way, and then you will get 15 upon 15, which is very difficult to do. Only a few students can do this. And these few students who can do this, they get their A1 because this is the differentiating question. The summary question is the most demanding task or out of all the things that you have to do for the English language exam. It's more demanding than the essay. Because essay, you can just say whatever you want, right? But this summary must be within 80 words. Your vocab must be correct. Your grammar must be correct. You have to answer the question and it must be true to the original. So there's so many constraints, so many rules which you must follow. So this is a very great test. And so for most students, if you get 12 upon 15, you're already above average. Most
Mm.
students will score 8 or
Mm.
7. You understand? So the way to boost your scores from 8 or 7 to 12 is to lift. When you're not sure, just lift. Just lift the content points, string it together grammatically, then you score 3 to 4 marks for grammar, then you get total 11 or 12.15. Okay, so we have two strategies. If you have always been, I repeat myself again, this is very important, this is like the third time repeating myself. If you have consistently been scoring 2 or 3 upon 15, it is possible to jump to something like 11 to 12 upon 15. All you need to do is to lift. Okay. If you have consistently been getting 12 upon 15 and you're saying, but Mr. Sim, I want to get 15 upon 15. I want to go to whatever school there is. Okay. Ask yourself, can you do this? Are you able to do this kind of transformation? Remember synthesis and transformation? Are you able to do this kind of transformation? If you can, then you go ahead and you do it. Then you get your 15 upon 15. If you can't, if you leap too far and you miss your marks will go backwards. So that is your choice. You understand? I cannot force you to do one thing or another. You have to be wise, and then you have to assess yourself, your language ability. How much confidence do I have that I can do this accurately, transform the entire sentence, and still have it be remain true to the original? If I can do it, I'll get my 15. If I can't, I better play safe. Okay? You understand? So the three things that you need to do. Okay. And then after that, I'll open up for Q&A. You need to always underline the question. So spend time to tackle the question, to really fight with that question. Whatever question they give to you, you grab hold of it and say, what are you asking? Huh? What are you asking? Are you what is it that you want from me? Grab hold of that question, really examine it, analyze it. It's not just the text, it's the question itself that poses maybe 40% of the difficulty. Okay, every time I look at the table, I always find that the table questions, the examiners always come up with very interesting and new ways of phrasing it. But I always say, how did they ever think of asking this kind of question? And it changes every year. So you need to really be very careful with this. You need to say, what are you asking of me? And then, okay, now I know. What does it mean? The nature of her movements. I understand what they're asking for. Then you can begin. Because if you don't understand what they're asking for, you can't begin. So you need to decode that question. Okay, so this is very important. And so for language for impact, use a two-part question, two-part answer. It's the same if they say, how does the image support the message of the website? So two parts. First part, the photograph shows smiling children playing with Lego robots. This suggests that children who sign up for this activity will find it satisfying. Like that. Two parts. So you describe what you see in the photo, and then after you say, this suggests that. So this suggests that is the magic phrase. This suggests that. So it's a new way of thinking. It's different from this says that or this means that, because it doesn't mean it. It doesn't mean that thing. But it suggests, because suggestion is what is implied. Suggestion is what is meant but not said explicitly. Suggestion is how they get you to believe certain things through the image, which they don't put down in terms of words. Because if the advertisers put down in terms of words, they might get sued, because what they are, they cannot make those claims. So they will just suggest certain things through the careful selection of the image. So the visual text comprehension is testing whether or not your teachers have trained you over the past 4 years to be critical consumers of media. So if you are a critical consumer of media, whenever you see an image, immediately you think, oh, so they're trying to manipulate me because they chose the picture of a crying child. They're trying to manipulate me. They showed the photograph of two happy children. Oh, they are trying to manipulate me. They showed a photograph of an old man who is smiling while he's exercising. They're trying to manipulate me. I can see. because all the photographs are deliberately chosen with a purpose and an effect in their minds. It's not randomly chosen photographs. So this visual text comprehension, when they ask you, how does the image support the message? So we break it down. The image shows an old man who is smiling while he's exercising. Full stop. This suggests that elderly citizens who take time to exercise will enjoy better health, comma, which is the message of the website. Like that. You see? So you do it step by step by step. Okay. Number three, extract. So extract. So don't do it all at once. So I have students when they do summary, right? They just look at the passage, then they immediately write. And after they look at the passage, they immediately write. Then by the time they look at it, they say, have I written this before? Because it's very difficult, right? You have all the words there and you don't do your working and you didn't do your bracketing, then your eyes are jumping all over the place. So it's very tiring to reread. So why do you want to make it so difficult for yourself? Why don't you do some preliminary work on the passage by using brackets and numbering first? And then you can say, I'm done with number one. I put a tick on the paper. I put a tick on number two. I put a tick on number three. Why are you keeping the piece of paper so clean? I don't understand. I don't understand. Why is it that your piece of paper is so clean? For what? So do your working on the piece of paper, bracket it, number it, underline it. Say this is the idea. I don't understand it. I put a question mark on it. I think this is related to the other thing. I draw an arrow. What do I mean? You look at all this. This is what I mean. Look at this. This is what my paper looks like. And this is what your paper should look like. Do you understand? This is what your paper should look like, because this is a record of my thinking process. When I look at this again, I remember, I say, oh yeah, I was processing, I was thinking like this. You see, so when you do your working on your paper, then when you look at it again, it's very easy. You're immediately reminded of what you did previously or what your thinking process was. So implement this, okay? Don't be afraid to write things on the text in order to make things easy for yourself. Hello, Mr. Shum. Okay, I'm going to open this time up for any questions you might have. Okay, so type in either into question and answer or in the webinar chat. Okay, so we will attempt to answer all the questions. And so it might last beyond 9 o'clock. So those of you who have to go because you're revising for geography or maths, whatever, then you can go ahead. But those of you who want to stay on to listen to us as we deal with the questions, because maybe you get some enlightenment. Maybe those are questions which you also have, but you didn't think of asking them. Okay, so let's deal with the questions one at a time. Okay, I'll answer the one from Hasbi first. Okay, Hasbi and so Mavis and Mishram, you can select the questions which you want to answer. Okay, I'll answer the one from Hasbi which says, how do we answer questions which ask how the image supports the overall message of the poster? I selected that because I already answered it. Okay. So you say the image shows a young lady who is smiling while she is taking part in yoga. Full stop. So describe the image. Describe what you see in the image. Describe what you see in the image. Full stop. Then you say, this suggests that. Okay, this suggests that people who take part in yoga will be happy and healthy, comma, which is the message of the website. Okay. Okay. I'm going to deal with the second question I have here. Shagun says, how do we differentiate between example and points? Okay, so there are a few keywords which writers normally use when they talk about example. They might say, for instance, or they might say, take the case of, or they might say, uh,
Researchers from a certain university have
found
found
that
that.
blah blah. Yeah. Okay, so those would be the examples, or they might start with a date. They say in 1987, comma, a man blah blah blah. Then they tell a story. Okay, that's the example. The story is the example. So when you have that story, you take a step back and you ask yourself, okay, so what is this story about? If I don't want to talk about it, think about it in terms of story. What is it about? Oh, it's about the importance of drinking water regularly in order to avoid kidney stones. Ah, okay, so that's the point. That's the point. Do you understand? So anything where you remove the time, then it becomes the point. Anything that is organized according to time is going to be a story. Okay.
Yes, and also you need to look for repetition of keywords. For example, you said about kidney stones, right? So for example, if they are to summarize the consequences of not having enough water intake. So there's one point about kidney stones. And if they were to give examples, they would actually repeat the point. Like a survey amongst many Americans have shown that kidney stones show up as a main problem for those who don't hydrate enough. So you know that is an example because it just confirmed the main point of kidney stones being a consequence of not drinking enough water. So you really have to scan, not just haphazardly summarize by covering things from top to toe. So I came in a little bit late. The main thing is you bracket the main point. So how do you know if something is a main point? Is you look at the question. If they ask you for benefits of something or the consequences of something, you zero in on the consequence. So if you zero in kidney stones and you see kidney stones again and you see kidney stones again, it means there's only one point there. Two precise examples are given from research. Okay, so you only need to mention it once. That's it. So you have to be very discerning, not just literally do things in chronological order or to just summarize whatever paragraphs you see.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to answer another question from Jason. Jason says, how do we ensure that our inferences are correct? Okay, so what happens is that you know that the words which they give you have more than one meaning. So for example, rich can be in terms of money, but rich can also be in terms of amount, plentiful. So when you look at the context, Wales, Antarctic Ocean, then based on that, you cross-reference and you do a cross-check and you realize it can't be about money, right? Because whales don't spend money. So it must be about plenty, having lots or more than enough food. And that's how you check that your inferences are correct. Meaning that on the one hand, you need to have good vocab. That's what they're testing for. They're testing whether over the past 4 years you have built up your vocabulary, your database of words. So in to the amount that it's no longer just primary six English, right? You have added on new words over the past 4 years. And you have because you've studied geography, social studies, history, literature, and you have learned new words already. So they want to know, okay, so if you studied these words, the second thing is, are you able to cross-check? And because words can have more than one meaning, right? So when you cross-check, then you eliminate the wrong meaning and say, oh, it's not that meaning, it's this meaning. And then you get the correct inference. Okay, Jason? Okay, Brian says, how do we know which parts we should leave and which parts to change? Okay, the answer is that you leave the minimum amount that makes sense. So instead of saying, I'm going to lift the entire chunk, what I want to do is I want to limit my lifting to as few words as possible. And then if I bracket maybe just 5 words, then I read it and say, okay, if I just lift 4 words, does it still make sense? Oh, 4 words, not so clear. Okay, go back to 5 words. 5 words, does it make sense? Yeah, it's very clear. Just read these 5 words by itself. It's very clear what this is. Okay, then I leave these 5 words. Okay. SK asks how to answer the tone question. That is one of the final points, which I think at this point in your Sec 4 career, it's a bit too late to answer because that has to do with uh, vocab. Okay, that has to do with vocab because tone is not just about positive or positive tone, negative tone, ironic, sarcastic. Most students only have these 4 tones: positive, negative, ironic, sarcastic. But actually, there are many, many, many tones. So, disgust.
If they are our students, they would have had a list under the intensive list, right?
That's right.
And in general, tone is how you sound. So sometimes you don't need to panic. You ask, what is the person feeling? So if I'm feeling angry, what is my tone? If I'm furious, the tone is in a furious tone. Sometimes the words can be used to describe tone as well. Now, if you are scornful of someone, I think you would take a derisive tone. That means you are mocking at a person. If you are feeling disappointed, I think your tone would be one of disappointment. So this is one way you can quickly revise. On the other hand, many of you also have the internet at your fingertips. So whatever you're asking here, if in case last minute no teacher is around you, Google literally list of words to describe tone. So for example, if you scream at your brother, get out of my room in a belligerent way, so it would be an aggressive tone. You cannot use words like negative or positive because they are too generic. Okay, so you know when you write compositions and essays, you don't say, my teacher spoke to me in a positive tone. So when you write reflective recounts, for example, you want to show that your teacher encouraged you. So you would actually put, I recall my teacher saying these words to me in an encouraging way. So encouraging would be the tone.
Okay.
Stephen, your third blah became a ba.
Yeah, it's called blah 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 baha. Blah blah baha. Okay, so Werner asked, what's the difference between tone and attitude? So the words that are written or the words which a character uses or the author wrote, the words in themselves surrounding it in terms of our perception of it, that it has a certain quality, and that quality is known as the tone. Now, those words were deliberately chosen because the writer, the speaker, that character had a certain attitude towards something. So that is how the attitude is linked to the words and the tone of the words.
Yeah, so for example, when we did that prelim, or was it mid-year, about the professor who looked down on women, he says, tears have no place in this university. So if you cheat, you plagiarize, you will be expelled. The way he says, so tears have no space. Okay, so stop crying. It doesn't work on me. So what is his attitude towards female students? He is condescending towards them. So therefore, the tone he takes is one that is mocking and one that is derisive. So I've typed in the chat, attitude is the way you treat someone. Tone is literally what it sounds like when you say out your feelings using actual words. So when you read comprehension, like I said, you cannot just read words on a page. Sound it in your head. If you don't read it out aloud in your head, you will never get tone. Because the only way to get tone is to get it out of your mouth. How would you say it? You say, get out of my room. Mavis, smilingly. It doesn't work, right? So if I am angry, I would say, get out of my room now. The way I behave would be belligerent, I said just now. It would be antagonistic. And so my attitude towards this person is a negative one. I have to say, the person is very, very disrespectful, very rude to that person. And that's why the tone taken is one that is antagonistic or disrespectful even.
Okay. Eden asked, how to improve language marks for summary? So Eden, what kind of marks are you getting right now? Upon 7, what are you getting for upon 7 for your summary? 3 to 4. Okay. So what happens is that if you get 3 to 4 marks for summary, it's very likely that you are losing marks for grammar. Okay, so take a look at our grammar primers, which we have uploaded to the Telegram channel. Read through every single page, okay? Do numbers count as words in summary writing? Audrey asks everywhere, multiple times. One number is counted as one word. It's like 4,332 is counted as one word. Okay. But it's very unlikely that you will have to cite actual numbers, because if you cite an actual number in a summary, then
It
you're
means you're
giving
giving
an
an
example.
Yes. So if you see something like, if it's say the consequences after an earthquake or tsunami, then you have things like 35,000 houses were destroyed, 42 buildings were brought down, 23 public parks, and 70,000 animals, and blah blah blah. So what if you cite numbers? You are telling the examiner you don't understand what a summary is. In short, many houses, buildings were destroyed, along with countless fatalities or many deaths of animals and humans. That is what you should be writing, not 4,321 or 72,456.
Any more questions? Are there any other questions which we haven't answered? Message and purpose dealt with already. How to answer Alvin and Elizabeth question? Okay, so Alvin and Elizabeth. Okay, I mean it's true enough. Okay, so we have Alvin, and
The
then
talking head questions and
and
the detailed questions are actually very similar.
okay, so you have Alvin and Elizabeth questions. Okay, so you have to understand the thinking behind it. Okay, so the thinking behind it, behind the design of this question, is that both of them read the same passage as you. Both of them read the same passage as you. You also read this. So it's Alvin, Elizabeth, and you. Okay. Now, what happened is that after they read the same passage, this person has this opinion that was formed. and this person has a different opinion that was formed. So they're asking you, can you explain what caused Alvin to end up thinking like this? Okay, so that's the easy question. I just say, oh, it's because the passage said this. That's why he ended up. Okay, very simple. But the more difficult question is when they ask, can can you explain how can you explain is different from can you identify? Identify is basically say, hey, it's because the passage said this. But now if you have to explain how explain what Elizabeth would say to support her point of view. So now again, you need to identify that particular thing that's in the text, and then you need to jump into her head. You need to jump into her head and you need to think about, okay, she has this opinion and the text says this. So what went on in between? So you are supposed to, and this is theory of mind, you actually have to recreate what went on in her mind. It's because of this which caused this, and that's why she ended up thinking like that. Which is why lifting does not answer the question. You actually need to jump into her head. You need to say, okay, her opinion is like this, and then the text is like that. Oh, the text caused her to think like this because it suggested this, because the words suggested this. Do you understand? So you need to jump into her head. And how do we do that? We say empathy. And you need to take note of this. I have many students who lose marks. They do the Alvin and Elizabeth question, and you know what? They don't refer to Elizabeth's opinion. They just basically just ignore. They don't take it very seriously. They just look at the question and they try to answer the question immediately. And
Yes.
they
They also don't tear apart the words. Actually, Stephen, are you able to write something? Say, for example,
Yeah.
we pick something very simple. If the left person says, examinations are useless. Okay, say, examinations are useless. How can you find evidence from paragraph 5 to explain what this person said? So you have to underline the word useless. Because if you just look at the text and then you randomly copy two pieces of evidence, it is not explaining. So actually, the speech itself gives you room to explain. So all of you know that useless means of no value, utter waste of time, does not in the end achieve anything. Okay? So say, for example, you go to paragraph 5. And then maybe some statistics have shown that there are many people who do very well for exams, but in the end, fare very badly in their actual jobs. So what you should lift is a survey has found blah, blah, that people who did very well academically did not fare well in their jobs. Don't stop there. So you have to explain. So this goes to show that examinations are of no use since it does not help anyone to cope with their career or with their job. And there you have it. But most of the time, Stephen and Mavis, what they like to do is just quote and then they just put a full stop there.
Yeah.
The word explain is there. And then they just lift the evidence. If they only wanted evidence, the question would be find evidence from paragraph 5 to support Alvin's view. Then you are right. A survey has found that blah, 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 that doing well academically does not support, people did not do well in their jobs. Then you can stop there. But once they ask you to explain, the clue is in the speech. You know, there are two speech bubbles. You have to underline the keyword. Obviously, Elizabeth's going to say the opposite. No, examinations are still relevant. We should not abolish them. Again, find evidence from paragraph 6 to explain why she is correct. So how? You're going to quote again and then get 0 for it. No, so you have to quote where it is found that people who did very well in examinations, they were able to endure stress and therefore cope with the rigor of working life. So you want to quote that, then you explain. So it shows that examinations still have relevance because they equip people with the stamina to do heavy jobs or to face challenges when they grow up. That's all you need. Explain and go back to the bubble to prove that something that is said is valid.
Okay, I have a question from Aditya who says tips on answering 3 detailed comprehension questions.
Same
Again,
thing.
it's
the same thing lah.
it's not so easy, but the key to it is that when you when you erase. Okay, so what happens if the question is that they will ask you blah 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 blah, and then
Create
they'll give you
suspense.
something, whatever it is,
Yeah.
that particular effect. Okay, so whatever effect that is created, right? So 3 details that blah 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 create this effect. So what if you don't understand what this word is, right? So what you do is that you refer to the passage. Okay, so the passage, let's say paragraph 1. Okay, maybe paragraph 2 or whatever it is. So you're looking at paragraph 1, and then as you read paragraph 1, you get, oh, I feel something. Okay, what caused you to feel that something? It's this particular word. Okay, that's one detail. Then after that, you read, hey, I feel something. And what caused you to feel that something? It's those 2 particular words or 3 words. Okay, you bracket it. Then you read, read, read,
Yes.
read, 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 read. Then at the end, you say, hey, there's something here. Okay, and this is the 3rd thing. Oh, so there are 3 things. These are the 3 details that cause me to feel that particular thing. Oh, then that's the effect. So even if I don't know that particular word, but you can feel the effect because effect exists in you. The effect does not exist on the paper. The effect exists in you. So when you read it and you feel it, that's the effect. So how do you identify it? Well, when you read it, you get that feeling. Okay, that's the effect.
Actually, I have one more tip. Can you draw on the right side the flow chart? There's always this matching thing also. In this passage, the writer undergoes some emotions. So on the right side, same as when you did the effect, the same page. Yes, on the right side, there's some blank. So you have a flow chart as well. And they always give you paragraphs 1, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, and 7. Then they give you a lot of words, right? So for example, if a typical question 1, find 3 details from the opening paragraph, or explain how the use of language creates an eerie feeling. So you have to zero in on eerie feeling. You don't think about anything else already. Then you go and look at your flow chart. There are all these words and phrases coming. And you just, paragraph 1, you might see a phrase like a suspenseful start, a frightening setting, something like that. So you have to confirm both ways. Are you reading the correct thing or not? So if something is eerie, you laugh and you say, oh, actually, no leh. I find paragraph 1 very cheerful. Then I think there is something wrong with your eyes. Literally. It cannot be if the question says, find 3 details to show how suspense or an eerie feeling is set up. And you say, IDK, I really cannot see what is eerie. Then you have to ignite all the things that you have watched from horror films. Is there anything remotely scary? Like the wind? Is there some creaking sound? Is there this idea of, I don't know, a shadow lurking somewhere? So if these are within the brackets, then you explain it. For example, if you bracket shadows lurked, okay, behind the walls and the beams, then you have to explain how this causes the eerie feeling. So simply you say, the word shadows lurking, okay, the fact that there were shadows, quote, lurking in behind walls and beams suggests that there are the scary presence of unknown stalkers, okay, or unknown people following the narrator. So this sets up a very spooky atmosphere. So it's the same thing as the Alvin and Elizabeth question. You find the evidence, you say exactly why it's spooky, and therefore you have proven it is frightening. So all of you need to memorize some of these words: suspense, tension, nervousness, anxiety. All these are linked. On the other hand, if they say, I think we've tested them before, how is a bustling atmosphere set up? Also, what is bustling? Something that's very lively, filled with people. So again, you would have to bracket things like throngs of crowds milled about the marketplace. There were raucous claps and applauses while watching the street acrobats perform. Children were smiling and laughing as they chatted at the marketplace. All these you know, because in primary school, it is called show not tell. Mavis, correct? Show not tell. In short, you are unpacking somebody's compo. How do you know there is liveliness? Where's the show not tell? You look at the people's actions, the way the place is described. The setup is all there. So please don't think these questions are alien. They're not, because they are all within the human experience. We've gone through positive feelings, negative feelings, tension. You exactly know how it is set up. Okay, it's more like a matter of some of you not used to explaining answers. It's not that you don't know where to find the evidence. It is what to do with them.
Okay. Last words of advice for our students who are going to the exam. Anybody wants to start off first? One tip, okay? Just give one tip, okay? One final tip. Anybody?
Everything that Mr. Sim mentioned today, I have mentioned 1,000 times in my class. So my students who are here, it's the same thing I've been saying for the whole year. Okay.
Your students were my ex-students, so yes, we have been saying it since PSLE days, for some of you.
So yeah, follow. The missing piece in the puzzle now is just you are not following what we have been telling you. So you need to follow and do it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just going to reiterate: read instructions, underline keywords, use common sense. Okay? At worst, just use common sense. It will not go wrong.
Yeah, so if you've been with us for a very long time, you find that you've had lots of practice, much more than all the other students. Because when we talk, because we teach students across all over Singapore, and so we hear of horror stories of students who only get to write one essay per year, and then their teachers who happen to be HODs only return their work after 2 months. But if you've been with us all along, every month you get to write either situational writing or essay writing, and you've been doing lots of work for comprehension, and you've been doing lots of practice for visual text, narrative, compre, and summary. So go through your existing worksheets. Okay, go through your existing worksheets, note down the areas where you made errors and note the corrections. Look at the corrections and see the difference between the corrections, your answers, and then your wrong answer. So there are actually three things you need to look at: your wrong answer, the correct answer, and then what you think. So you write down and say, okay, so if I can see that difference, then you verbalize for yourself. You write out for yourself, oh, I should do this. I should no longer do that. Okay. And once you can verbalize for yourself, like what I did very early on in this session, right? I asked you to verbalize and write down what you have discovered. Once you can do that, it means that you have reprogrammed yourself. For the rest of you who haven't joined us for the years, what you can do is you look through our essay primers or grammar essentials, etc., and then you read through, and then you can improve your English for this last week. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, for putting your trust in us, and we hope that we have helped you in some little way or great way, and we wish you all the best. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sim. Thank you, Mr. Sham. And thank you to all of you. Good luck to all of you. We'll check in with all of you again after your exams, okay? And thank you, Sweaty,
Yeah.
for supporting us. Good night,
Yep.
everybody. Bye
Right.
bye.
Bye.